Hello, welcome. Today I'm hoping to talk just a little bit about a very beautiful verse from the Bible, one of the sayings of Jesus. He said, "Of myself I can do nothing. Of myself I can do nothing." Now that's remarkable that he said that. But when you understand what he meant, then it's not so remarkable. But what's remarkable is that he didn't forget that. In everything he did, he realized that of himself he could do nothing. He said it's the Father within who does the works. So let's see how that applies to us. Of yourself, you can do nothing. You see, one of the things that temptation is it's tempting you to move, to act, to speak. It's tempting you to do something on your own, to egotistically, pridefully, emotionally, angrily, excitedly reach for something or do something or try to make something happen, rather than wait to be internally impelled. Well, I'll just give you a classic example of a grace robber. The grace robber who challenges you, exhorts you, seduces you, pressures you. It doesn't matter how it's done, but whatever it'll do whatever works to get you to do something instead of doing it from within. Here's a classic example. Let's say that there's a nice elderly lady there, and she could use help opening the door. I'm just making up something. If you see that she could use some help opening the door, and you see that that would be the right thing for you to do, then you open the door for her. See how simple that is and how beautiful. But if someone comes along and says, "What's the matter with you? Why don't you open the door for that lady?" Or someone comes along and says, "If you open the door for her, then you're going to be a nice person." Or somebody comes along and says, "Hey, if you open the door for her, I'll give you $1. If you open the door for her, you'll get a reward. If you open the door for her, why, she might be a rich person, and then she'll give you a bunch of money because she likes you." If you then open the door because responding to any of those challenges or teases or temptations or seductions, then you're not internally impelled. That's why Christ said, "Let your right hand not know what your left hand is doing," or vice versa. What he meant was, if you see something to do, then just do it. If what's right is right, then just do what's right. If something shouldn't be done, then just don't do it. But if you move because of the challenge of someone else, then you're not internally impelled. See, that's why so many of today's students are just totally ruined. You see them in the dormitory or sitting at home. You see them smoking marijuana and texting. See, they have and why is that? It's because they're terrible people? No, it's because of what's been done to them. See, all their life they've been challenged, motivated, pressured, seduced, rewarded, punished, and to the point that they can't function on their own anymore. They need some tease or challenge, see, to perform, to act, to perform, or to rebel, either one or the other. They need, that's all they know is conform or rebel, but someone has to provide the temptation. So teachers that try to motivate the students, and parents who try to build character, and see, all they're doing is becoming a source of temptation that robs the person of self-motivation. Now let's continue with this thought. The ego, okay, is, see, the reason why temptation, it's so easy for the tempter, whoever the tempter is, whether it's your mother, your dad, your teacher, your coach, some kid, in one of your peers, advertisers, bosses, drug dealers, whoever it is that's tempting you. It's so easy for them. Or ministers, some church, see? It's so easy because the ego, in its fallen state, separated from God, it thinks that it has to make something happen. It thinks it has to do something. And it can't imagine anything happening if it doesn't make it happen. Then it tries to make things happen, and the timing is wrong. The energy is wrong. See, if you move out of what you see is right, you move intuitively, then you are moving with a different energy than if you're moving excitedly, greedily, angrily, resentfully, under pressure. See? So temptation is a stress. That's what it is. It's a stress. And the ego, see, the ego and temptation, they have an affinity for each other. The ego needs to, see, we get to the point that we need tease, we need challenge, we need something to go wrong so that we become resentful and angry and drum up the energy to do something. See? But then afterwards, what? Then you feel fatigued, tired, and the other thing is usually it doesn't work out because your energy was wrong, the timing was wrong. See? Now, when it comes to very important matters, we already addressed some of them. When it comes to your kids, for example. See, the worst thing you can do is to try to motivate them. It's the worst thing you can do. But in matters of the soul, of the spirit, in the important things in life, the very, very most important things in life, there it's even more important, because the devil will tempt you to be good. The devil will tempt you to be nice, to read more Bible verses. The devil will tempt you, see, to give more money. See, it's all temptation. Now, there's a tremendous power that is available. A tremendous power within from God. See, it's a special energy. It's emotionless. It's a love energy. It's love. And from that energy, it's unlimited. It's unlimited energy. See, there's no end to it. And it has wisdom with it. Wisdom and understanding. It's perfect. The perfect energy and the perfect wisdom. The perfect act with perfect timing. And this power is within. It's not your power. It's God. So if you can get your ego out of the way, see, but we always want to rush to do something. We want to rush to help. I'll give you an example, because this is hard for some people to see. I'll give you another example. You've heard the old aphorism that it's better to teach a person to fish than to give them a fish? Because if you give them a fish, they can eat for a day. If you teach them how to fish, then they can eat for a lifetime. You've heard that. Okay. Well, you parents with your kids, or looking at someone, a relative or someone, and you see them suffering for their actions. See, they did something wrong, and now they're suffering for it. Well, you know what? Suffering is about the only thing that will wake people up sometimes. It's about the only thing that will wake people up to realize the truth, to see that there's something wrong with their attitude, see, and to change their ways for the better. Because if there's no suffering, then they don't sense the need to change. They think everything is wonderful. So the way to ruin someone is to you've heard of enablers. You know that enablers are not good, right? The enablers help people to be wrong. They give money to all the wrong people, all the wrong causes, to the worst. They give, and they condone, and they excuse, and defend, and what's the word? Advocate for, and so on. So the very worst then don't have to suffer for their wrong. So it's better that they suffer a little bit and then wake up and change for the better. See? That would be best. But the ego always wants to rush in, always rush to help the enabler. You've seen some mothers ruin their kids that way, haven't you? You've seen it. They become spoiled. They have no motivation. They're rotten. And the mother's always there defending them. See? Poor baby. See? See what I mean? Kid becomes a drug addict or criminal, gang member, thief, something awful. And she's there excusing him and defending him and enabling him. See? Or he's got some woman, some girlfriend, who's excusing him, enabling. See? So if he doesn't suffer, if someone's always there to take away his suffering, so now you see how the temptation, you see it in society. You see with the liberals supporting everything that's wrong. See? Well, so now do you see that the ego, in the same way that it wants to rush and help all the wrong, see, in the world, in the same way it wants to, it thinks it can change itself. It thinks it can make itself good. It thinks it can make itself, it wants to make itself innocent. It wants to save itself. See? And so it tries to save itself. But the very act of saving yourself is an ego act that keeps you separated from God. So now do you see why the people that we sort of sense are great people, whether it's St. Francis of Assisi or a Gandhi or St. John of the Cross, or someone like that, you sense that, an Albert Einstein, they have a certain humility, don't they? They have a certain humility about them. But this humility, see, permits the good to come through them. See? See how that works? So, Christ said, of myself, I can do nothing. Of yourself, you can do nothing. You can't, Christ said what? You can't make one black hair white. You can't add 1 cubit to your height. See, you can't do anything. But see, but God can change you. God can change you. God can enter your life and fix things that are all messed up. See? And with all your mea culpas, all your huffing and puffing and all your crocodile tears and all of your analyzing and trying and striving, it's just more ego effort to avoid admitting that you're wrong and regretting what you are and realizing that you can't change yourself. See? So the ego is so perverse that when it finally, unless it's repentant, see the humility, see the letting go and letting God aspect, unless that, then the ego finally will condemn itself. When it sees that it can't change itself, then what does it do? Then it takes another act of playing God, instead of letting go and letting God. See, instead of wanting to know God, it wants to play God. So what does it do? It condemns itself. You've seen that, haven't you? People condemn themselves. But each step of the way, it's more temptation. And then the ideas come. Negative ideas, try more, do more, be more good works, more this, more that. And the more you do and strive, but all you're doing is responding to temptation. See? If you would just sit still, see, the less you do, the more happens. Once you start on the path, see, of course, if you're not on the path, if you're not ready to admit you're wrong and see your errors and regret them and ready to let go and let God, then the ego, it strives and strives, and then when things don't work out, it gets all bummed out and becomes resentful, and then sometimes it sits, and then it resigns itself. Well, what's the use trying, it says. See, making another judgment. That's another act. See, that we're tempted. So all around you there is temptation, and you just have to be able to see it and understand the principle of moving from within instead of being tempted. You have to understand that principle. Just observe it. Don't do anything. Don't resent it. Don't struggle with it. Don't give in to it. Don't anything. Just watch it. Just observe it. And wait until from within you know what to do. Maybe nothing is required. Nothing but watching. A lot of times just watching is enough. And it goes away. Sometimes a word or an act or a gesture or something is needed. Then you'll see that, you'll know it from within. You'll just act. You won't even think about it. See, another temptation. This is so subtle. But it becomes obvious once you realize it. The other temptation is to analyze. Let me see if I can find something for you that's very, very good. Yes, here it is. St. John of the Cross. Listen to St. John of the Cross's words about interior wisdom coming directly from God, from intuition. Listen to what St. John of the Cross says. He said, "This interior wisdom, so simple, general, and spiritual, enters not into an intellect entangled and covered over by any forms or images subject to sense, and therefore the imagination and the senses cannot account for it." Okay. Let me say it again. This interior wisdom, so simple, general, and spiritual, enters not into an intellect entangled and covered over by any forms of or images subject to sense, and therefore the imagination and the senses cannot account for it. See? So you just realize, you see, and you realize. You see what they're up to, they're tempting you, and then you just don't respond because you see that that's what they're up to. You just don't respond. You don't resent them. You don't get angry at them. You just watch. And then they become frustrated because they can't get anywhere with you. They're not used to that. They're used to everybody see, succumbing to their temptation. But it's not a matter of intellect, see. So you have to also learn how to just move spontaneously from your intuition, seeing what's right, what's wise, see, without running it through your intellect. That's what St. John of the Cross was saying, without running it through your intellect. Because if you take the realization, see, even if you realize something, see, a lot of times people, they immediately go into they become emotional, they go into the intellect and their imagination. And then ideas come to them from the outside. They're not their ideas. They're always wrong. It's more temptation. The voice in your mind. It's more temptation. Just watch it. Don't believe it. Don't disbelieve it. Don't follow it. Don't struggle with it. Just watch it. Let it pass. So that's one thing. But now let's say that somebody has finally understood, oh, okay, I need to flow from intuition. They understand, they get that. Okay, that's good. Oh, now I see why I haven't had any motivation. Now I see why I felt futility. It's because it wasn't my idea. I was always reacting. And that's why I've been so stressed out and drained and tired and frustrated, because I'm just reacting to temptation. So they get that. Very good. Okay. So now the next step that you have to see is that, and meditation helps to keep you close to that intuition, so you can see more and more and more and more, and make fewer and fewer mistakes. You'll still make some mistakes, but they'll be good, because then you'll see, oh, I see. But now here's the thing. Sometimes you might see the right thing to do. You see it, okay? Then you should just, when it's time to move, you just move without running it through your intellect. But a lot of times people will then take the insight, the real insight, and then they run it through their intellect and they analyze it. Well, what if this and that, and why this and why that, and it ruins it. See, then they get themselves entangled in the intellect. See, and temptation is always lurking there with doubts and who knows what. And then they think, well, this and that, and when should I do it, and should I do it now? And then the timing is off, and it ruins it. So you have to learn how to flow directly from intuition to flow from intuition. Okay, because there's temptation too, so people tempt you to think, to analyze. See, more temptation. So maybe you can see you've been totally miseducated. They teach you to look into your intellect, to a storehouse of knowledge, of facts, figures, and formulas, and then see. But once you get down there into the intellect, you've stepped away from pure faith, close to your intuition, and you step into this no man's land of the imagination, and there temptation makes its approach. See, and then it tempts you there. Or you should be praying more. You should be nicer to this person. You should do this. You should do that. See, and even if it's technically the correct thing, even if it's technically correct, if you do it because of you're reacting and responding to that temptation, then you're still going to feel guilty. You're going to feel out of sorts. See, you're going to feel something not quite right. And then it's not going to work out right either, because it tempts you to do things at the wrong time. See, and it's very clever. See, it's very clever. I'll never forget, I watched it was on television. It was a documentary on a Christian station that was made by someone who used to be a rock and roll band member or something like that. And then he saw what was going on. But he said that Satan is very good at using music to get people to act. That's what he wants. He wants to tempt you to act. See, what he wants on his schedule. But he says there's always three aspects, and a lot of this music that's used to get people going and to do the wrong thing, whatever wrong is. He said there's always action, passion, and a sense of urgency. It's always action, action, passion, passion, urgency, urgency. And then people move out of emotion, out of passion, out of do it, do it, do it, do it. See? So, instead, you have to be like the cowboy in the old Western bar. Walks into the bar, walks up to the counter. A good cowboy, you know, like a Hopalong Cassidy or Lone Ranger, a good cowboy. Like one of the heroes of a Louis L'Amour Western. A good man with principle and honor, decency. Walks up to the bar and says, I'd like a glass of water. Then somebody looks at him and makes some comment. Water, huh? You're not man enough to drink whiskey? Hey, everybody, look at this guy. He's drinking water like a little kid. He's not man enough. Ha, 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 ha. And the good guy just stands there, drinks his water, doesn't react. And then they keep trying. Wah, ha, ha. And eventually the good guy walks out, and they got egg on their face. But should they try something? Should they push the envelope? Never works out for them. Because when he moves in his own time and space. There was a television show. Those of you who are younger, you probably aren't aware, probably don't remember it, but some of you do. If you don't, then you've got to try to watch a little bit of it. You can see segments of it on YouTube. It was called Kung Fu. That was the name of the television show, Kung Fu, starring David Carradine, I think his name was. It's beautiful and brilliant. Brilliant. It showed, and it was a story of a Chinese man, a Shaolin monk, who ended up in America back in the days of the Old West. And he had many adventures, but he always did what was right. And he was a good person. But he moved in his own time and space. I even saw on YouTube, I saw where it showed him going into a bar and drinking water or milk or tea or something. I forget. It was exactly what I just described. He walked into the bar and he ordered water or something. And they were all making fun of him. And he didn't react. He just drank his water. But then somebody tried something. And he moved in his own time and space. And it didn't work out for the other person. Eventually the other person just had to slink away. See? Because when you do move in your own time and space. I'm going to conclude this. It's so brilliant. And if you can begin to realize by watching my video here and thinking and see, not so much thinking about it, but just seeing it and meditating, so you're objective and not emotional, and you're close to your intuition, and you begin to understand, and you see it deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's also called faith. See? So in the beginning, you'll still react to some things. As time goes by, you'll react less and less. And then eventually you'll be faced with some issue. Other people would be, I've got to do something, you've got to do something, oh my God. And you'll be calm. And you'll wait until you see what to do. If you don't see what it is, then you just wait. The pressure stays out there. You're not tempted. And then somehow, either you do something and it works out, or you don't do anything and it somehow is resolved like magic. So I want to give you one last example. This was in my book. I believe it was in the book, Putting the Forever Back in Love. A young man said, Roland, I'm a teenager. My mom, when she asks me to do things, she says it in such a mean, bossy way, it makes me angry, and I don't want to do it. She'll say, take the garbage out, but she says it in such a mean, dictatorial, bossy way that it tempts me to rebel. So I said, here's what you do. Here's the secret. When your mom asks you to do something, then let a heartbeat go by. and check with your intuition. And if it's the right thing to do, or the wise thing to do, see, or a nice thing you could do, okay? So in other words, it's right or it's wise, then do it. Not because she bossed you around, but because you see that it's the right or wise thing to do. So you're moving by your self-impelled. See? So you see how that is? You let a heartbeat go by. And then, not because she said it, but because you see that it's the wise thing to do. See? It's so simple. But it's very important that you grasp that principle. Okay? Very important. Well, hope you enjoyed today's little video. My name is Roland.